Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the City Council meeting of Tuesday, September 3rd. Hard to say September, but it is September 3rd. Call the meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Hey, so first we have public comment. If you would like to make public comment, I would ask that you raise your hand. When you come up to the podium, state your name and mailing address. Try to keep it under 3 minutes and remember to be kind and respectful. Is there anyone that would like to make public comment that's in the audience? Okay, is there anyone on Zoom that would like to make public comment? If you raise your hand.
Angela Benton.
Okay, Angela Benton.
Good evening, Angela. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Angela Benton, P.O. Box 591 in Cannon Beach. Thank you this evening for hearing and our request from Friends of Haystack Rock for an RV site space. This evening, I am representing Friends of Haystack Rock, and I think all of you know we're a local nonprofit, and this year we celebrate 20 years of partnership with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in the city of Cannon Beach. We have submitted a letter to the council and asked for you to consider dedicating an RV site to support U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service volunteers for the HRAP program annually from mid-May through Labor Day. The HRAP program and volunteers are an incredible asset for this community, and they really do the program represents the gold standard for coastal conservation on the West Coast. These folks have tough jobs. They educate, protect, and serve as ambassadors to hundreds of thousands of visitors to Haystack Rock every year. Now, Haystack Rock is part of the Oregon Island National Wildlife Refuge and is managed by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And our partners in the service have long recognized the need for additional help at Haystack Rock, and they've been very successful in recruiting volunteers to serve as environmental educators down on the beach during the summer. In prior years, those educators would arrive with their RV, and Fish and Wildlife found a place for them to stay. And usually that was at Ecola Park at the RV site. Now, that wasn't an easy task for the service. As you know, housing is always a challenge during the summer. But this last summer, it really sort of achieved a very difficult point for us. The service, Fish and Wildlife, had recruited 2 volunteers. Those volunteers arrived in town and went to Ecola Park. But due to the degradation of both the road and the RV site, they were unable to park their RV to live there for the summer. We struggled along with the HRAP program and the service to try and find alternative accommodations. When none could be found, they left, and we lost 2 important volunteers for the whole summer. Needless to say, we all felt bad about that, and Dawn Harris, who is the Fish and Wildlife Service representative, has been talking with the state parks, and due to the degradation at Ecola of the road and the RV site, as well as increased visitation, they are unable to provide an RV site in the future. So we think the volunteers are important. They provide an incredible service to this community as well as to the Haystack Rock Awareness Program. And we think it's worth pursuing alternative accommodations. So in our letter, we've outlined the type of accommodations as an RV site that these volunteers would be needing. And we hope you'll agree and support our requests for an RV site with a full hookup from May to Labor Day, not just next summer, but annually. We thank you for considering our request and happy to answer any questions you all have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom? Anyone else in the audience? Okay, thank you, everyone. So the first item is informational, and we're going to talk about the parking information aid end of the season. Chief?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'd like to invite the parking aides to come up. You just stand here in front, get recognized, I'll introduce you. We had 7 this summer. Nathan Howes left early, he's now dispatching paramedics. But gentleman on the right, Tyler Bear, Lindsay McCarthy, Isaiah Salinas, he was our lead bike aide this summer. Jaden Cottle, who is not able to make it tonight. Hugo Pierre Luis and Naomi Nelson, our newest. She started mid-August, has been doing great for us. These kids worked their tails off this summer through May, June, July, and August. They're still working through on the weekends through September because most of them are going to school. Hot days, cold days, assisted with several events throughout the summer 4th of July parade. Some of them came in and helped us patrol the beach for the fireworks patrol, Sandcastle Day, mainly downtown patrolling, but you'd see them in the presidentials on busy days and then up here at Midtown and even going down into the S-curves to monitor some stuff. They were actually down there earlier this evening. So thank you very much for your hard work. We all appreciate it. For May, they wrote 70 citations, 193 citations in June, 467 in July, and through the 3rd week of August, 306. Their main job is not to write citations. That's kind of their one of their jobs, but mainly is to pass out information to these folks and make sure that they can find places they can park before they get in trouble. But as you know, Cannon Beach gets so inundated with traffic, it's hard to wrangle that many cars and make sure people are parking properly, but they do a great job of it. And there's a lot of great community contacts that they do during the summer. So thank you very much for all your help. Hopefully we see some of you next year. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Any speeches before you guys go?
Don't tempt Tyler, he'll talk.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a couple of resolutions. The first one is Resolution 2406, amending and restating the resolution for the purpose of authorizing the execution and delivery of full faith and credit obligations in an amount not to 25.8 million to finance capital projects designating an authorized representative and special counsel and related matters. Sorry about that, Bruce.
Thank you, ma'am. I believe that Ashley's going to take this one.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, Council. Ashley Driscoll, City Attorney's Office. I'm going to do a short prologue and history of the next 2 agenda items before I go into the specifics of restated and amended Resolution 2406. So as the Council certainly knows, and I believe many in the audience know, back in April of 2024, the Cannon Beach City Council passed Resolution 2406. Resolution 2406 authorized the city to move forward with financing of the city's 3 significant projects. The 3 significant projects are a new city hall, a new police station, and the rejuvenation of the former Cannon Beach Elementary. Shortly after the City Council passed Resolution 2406, a citizen filed a legal challenge to the resolution, essentially a legal challenge to the process the city was using to finance these 3 projects. The actual name of the legal challenge is the writ of mandamus. The writ of mandamus quickly went before a judge in Clatsop County. The judge ruled in the city's favor in June of this year. And then the relator, or the citizen filing the legal challenge, very quickly thereafter filed an appeal. The appeal then went up to the Oregon Court of Appeals, where it has been very slowly going through that process. So the appeal presented a challenge for the financing of all 3 projects. So during the pendency of the appeal, the city could move forward with the financing of the city hall, the police station, and the Cannon Beach Elementary. However, just the presence of the appeal made the financing process significantly more challenging and significantly more expensive. So during the course of this, for the last several months, the city has been working with the relator, or the citizen who filed the writ of mandamus, and a group of citizens who have been opposed to the method that the city has been using to finance these projects. And as a result of the negotiations at the August 16th council meeting, the city council authorized the city manager to enter into a settlement agreement with the opposing citizens on the following terms. The first term was that the citizen who filed the writ of mandamus and subsequent appeal would dismiss the appeal at the Oregon Court of Appeals. In exchange for that, the city would bifurcate the financing for the city hall and the police station from the rejuvenation of the Cannon Beach Elementary. And the city would refer the financing for the Cannon Beach Elementary to the ballot in November for a vote for the citizens, and then the city council would abide by the citizen vote for that project. The city would also pass an amended and restated resolution 2406, which would allow the city council or the city to move forward with the financing of the city hall and the police station and remove the authorization for the financing for the Cannon Beach Elementary, pending the outcome of that vote. And finally, the group of citizens who were opposed to the method the city was using agreed not to file any legal challenges to the newly restated and amended resolution. So that brings us up to today. I can report that the relator, or the citizen who filed the writ of mandamus, dismissed her appeal in the Oregon Court of Appeals this afternoon, which triggers the city council to fulfill its end of the settlement agreement, which is to pass a restated and amended resolution that removes the authorization for financing for Cannon Beach Elementary and then moves forward with the financing for City Hall and Police Station. And then second, take the final step in referring the financing for the Cannon Beach Elementary project to the ballot. So that's the history. The actual resolution that is in front of the city council at this moment, which Mayor Knopf went over, is the restated and amended resolution 2406. And this is authorizing the execution and delivery of full faith and credit obligations the original amount was $33.35 million to finance capital projects, including the Cannon Beach Elementary and the City Hall and Police Station. What is actually before you is the amended resolution, which removes the authorization for the CBE and reduces the maximum amount accordingly. So the recommendation from staff is to approve and adopt the amended and restated resolution 2406. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Ashley? For staff? Okay, thank you, Ashley. Anyone have anything to say?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve amending and restating resolution 2406 for the purpose of authorizing the execution and delivery of full faith and credit obligations in an amount not to exceed $25,800,000 to finance capital projects, designating an authorized representative and special counsel and related matters.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Counselor Hayes,
Yes.
Counselor Kerr,
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy.
Yes.
Council President McCarthy.
Yes.
Mayor Knopf.
Yes. Okay, thank you everyone for all your work with that. And next we have resolution 2416. Bring that also. Bruce?
Sorry, that'd also be Ashley's.
Okay.
Okay.
Again?
So the resolution before the council tonight is consideration of resolution 24-16, calling an election on an advisory measure on the financing improvements to the former Cannon Beach Elementary School and authorizing the city attorney to draft and file an explanatory statement. So on August 16th, the city council took the initial steps to refer an advisory measure to the ballot for the November 5th election to gauge the interest in voters in moving forward with financing for the rejuvenation of the Cannon Beach Elementary. The city purchased Cannon Beach Elementary back in 2020, and the city has begun the process to redevelop and rejuvenate the building into a tourist-related facility with community benefits. The city has designed most of the proposed improvements and now needs approximately $7.8 million to complete the construction. The city desires to finance these costs, which are intended to be paid back using the proceeds from the transient lodging tax paid by tourists. So state law authorizes the city to enter into agreements to finance the rejuvenation project without the vote. However, the city council has expressed a desire to work with voters to receive voter input prior to entering into the actual financing agreement. And as I mentioned at the outset, this was also part of the settlement agreement to move forward with the other two projects without the pending appeal. So back in August 16th, the city council filed the proposed ballot title with the city elections official for publication of notice. The city election official published the notice as required by law, and then the ballot title went through the challenge period without receiving a challenge. So the ballot title has already become final. It became final on August 28th, 2024. And so this is the final step in the process. The resolution before you actually refers the advisory measure to the November 5th ballot, and it authorizes me as the city attorney to draft and file an explanatory statement for the measure that will appear in the voter pamphlet. So the recommendation for tonight from staff is for city council to approve resolution 24-16, which will call the election and authorize the city attorney to draft and file an explanatory statement. So with that, I can take questions.
Anyone have questions?
No. No questions, but I think that actually did a great job of explaining where we're at with that. The only missing part that people may not understand is that the plan is to use that portion of lodging taxes that are limited to being used for either tourism marketing or tourism facilities. So they're tourism dedicated dollars that can't be spent on other things. And there's been a lot of confusion about that. And so I just wanted to underscore it.
Thank you.
You're ready for a motion?
Yeah.
Okay. I move to approve resolution 24-16 for the purpose of calling an election on an advisory measure on financing improvements to the former Cannon Beach Elementary School and authorizing the city attorney to draft and file an explanatory statement.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call please, Jen.
Council President McCarthy,
Yes.
Counselor Hayes,
Yes.
Counselor Kerr,
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Mayor Knopf.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have a proclamation 2412 declaring September 15th through October 15th as National Hispanic Heritage Month in Cannon Beach. And Chief, you want to start out? And we do have a guest in the audience also.
Before council tonight is a proclamation regarding the celebration of National Hispanic Heritage Month. Every year, National Hispanic Heritage Month is observed from September 15th to October 15th each year by Americans across the United States. Hispanic Heritage Month is an important awareness event that celebrates the contributions, diverse culture, and history of Hispanic people. The 2024 theme for Hispanic Heritage Month is Pioneers of Change, Shaping the Future Together. the theme encapsulates the spirit of innovation, resilience, and unity that defines the Hispanic experience. Tonight, we have the program director of El Centro Northwest, Paola Velasquez, with us. El Centro Northwest is a community-based organization whose mission is to empower our Hispanic community by providing adequate resources to elevate their voices, ensure safe living and working environments, and promote financial literacy, educational growth, and preservation of cultural heritage. Would you like to stand up and tell us a little bit more?
Might be our youngest public commenter.
If he can get out his mailing address.
Yes.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm sorry. He's been doing a good job. So, it's me. Well, first of all, I want to thank you all and on behalf of El Centro Northwest, with one of our deepest gratitudes on this proclamation. We are honored to be part of a community that values diversity and inclusion. And this proclamation reaffirms the importance of celebrating the unique cultural heritage that enriches our shared experiences. It is not only a recognition of the past and present contributions, but to our future generations to continue to thrive in this community and make an important impact. We also want to invite everyone, this September 18th, we will be celebrating our Hispanic Heritage Celebration. We're going to be starting at 4:30. And this evening will be filled with lively festivities. We will have food for purchase, free live music, folkloric dance performance, or dance and and then we will also be having family games. We also are grateful to the Kennedy Grant Committee for making their contribution for us to be able to host this event. Again, thank you for standing with us in the celebration and for your ongoing support and commitment in fostering an environment that's full of respect and unity. And I'm not sure if you have any questions the services we are planning on providing, the services we're actually providing currently, for future programs.
Any questions?
No, I will say though, I went last year and the food was fantastic.
Okay. It'll be the same cooks, the same volunteers will be helping us achieve it. So I really hope you all can make it and come celebrate with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Paola. You would like to make?
I'll move to adopt proclamation 2412 declaring September 15 to October 15 as National Hispanic Heritage Month in Cannon Beach.
Second,
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Council President McCarthy,
yes.
Counselor Hayes.
Yes,
Counselor Kerr.
Yes.
Mayor Knopf.
Yes. Brandon, you'd like to do your usual?
Yeah, you bet. Absolutely. Before the city of Cannon Beach, for the purpose of designating September 15th through October 15th, 2024 as National Hispanic Heritage Month in Cannon Beach. Proclamation number 2412, whereas the period from September 15th through October 15th has been set aside throughout the United States as National Hispanic Heritage Month, and whereas Hispanic Heritage Month does not cover one single month, but instead begins in the middle of September and ends in the middle of October. Time frame of this month is significant because many Central American countries celebrate their Independence Days within these dates, beginning on September 15th with Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. By aligning with these Independence dates, Hispanic Heritage Month honors the resilience and determination of the Hispanic community. Whereas the term Hispanic or Latino refers to a person of Cuban, Mexican, Puerto Rican, South or Central American, or other Spanish culture or origin who can be of any race, any ancestry, and any ethnicity. And whereas the United States has always drawn its strength from contributions of a diverse people, And whereas Hispanic Heritage Month provides an additional opportunity to explore the incredible impact Latinas and Latinos have had on the United States, Oregon, and Cannon Beach. And whereas Hispanic Americans have played a prominent and important role in our national heritage, and our Hispanic American residents lift up our communities and our economy as entrepreneurs, executives, and small business owners. And whereas a significant segment of more than 40,000 people living in Clatsop County are Hispanic, and whereas we honor the rich heritage of our Hispanic community. Be it resolved that the Cannon Beach City Council declares the month of September 15th through October 15th as National Hispanic Heritage Month in Cannon Beach, and call upon public officials, educators, and all residents to observe this month with appropriate ceremonies, activities, and programs as they share in this special annual tribute by learning and celebrating the generations of Hispanic and Latino Americans who have positively influenced and enriched our nation and society. Passed by the Common Council of the City of Cannon Beach this third day of September 2024.
Thank you, Brandon.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have a public hearing. This is a hearing regarding the appeal by Josiah Stromstad of Planning Commission's denial of V 2404. Josiah applicant requesting a variance setback requirements at 3747 Chinook Avenue, tax lot 1702, map 51029C, residential density R2 zone. Request will be against the chapter 17.84 variances. I'm going to open the public hearing and ask, does anyone object to the jurisdiction of the city appeal at this time? Does any counselor believe he or she has a personal bias to declare? Does any counselor believe he or she has a conflict of interest? Has any counselor had any ex parte contacts or made a site visit?
Site visit.
Site visit. Is there any additional correspondence? Okay, so I'd like to request the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. At their June 27th, 2024 meeting, the City of Cannon Beach rendered a decision to deny Josiah Stromstad variance to reduce the required front yard setback to construct a second-story deck on the front of their single-family dwelling located at 3747 West Chinook Avenue. The Stromstads requested review of that decision, and on August 13th, the council held a scope of review meeting and determined that the appeal would be heard on the record of the decision by the Plan Commission with the allowance of an additional site plan. The applicant is requesting a front yard variance from 15 feet to 10 feet 9 inches on the north end of the deck and 14 feet on the south end of the deck in order to construct a new 280 square foot second story residential deck over the garage and driveway facing the street at their home located at 3747 West Chinook Avenue. The existing single family dwelling and garage currently meet the minimum required front yard of 15 feet. The applicable criteria involved in this are 17.64, which is setback reduction. The Plan Commission found that there was insufficient information to determine that the application met the criteria. The applicant in their appeal application submitted some documentation in their letter that I'm going to go through. They stated that they believe their variance request meets sections E and A, which relate to unusual lot configuration and tree protection. And they stated that the Community Development Director, Steve Sokolowski, mentioned the unusual configuration of their lot in his staff report, noting that the configuration of the lot resulted in differing setbacks for the southwest and northwest corners of the house. The front yard is angular with the lot lines running diagonally instead of parallel. The southwest corner of the house is within the setback requirements, but due to the unusual lot configuration, the northwest corner is not. We feel that this point was mentioned at the beginning of the hearing, but not brought up or focused on again when the planning commission made its final decision after the public statements were closed. It's staff's position that the lot is not of unusual lot configuration. This is a 2,535 square foot, 2-story home with a large deck and yard on the north and east sides of the property. It's an approximately 6,200 square foot lot, 59 by 105, whereas many of the single family lots in Cannon Beach are 5,000 square foot, about 50 by 100. Lot is not your average rectangular lot, but all the lots along this section of West Chinook are slightly angled because Chinook Avenue is slightly angled. The second point that the applicant had in their letter and documentation was regarding tree protection criteria, and indicated while granting the setback variance would not save or protect the tree, it has the potential to protect their children's lives, which we argue are invaluable and should take precedence over the trees. We're stating this because the issue of the tree protection was brought up multiple times during the hearing of our case, while the issue of creating a safe place for our children was undermined. It's staff position that this tree protection criteria is not met because the location of the deck does not preserve or protect the tree. The last criteria that we were looking at variances for granting a criteria, the commission found that the applicant did not meet the criteria in order to consider a variance from the front yard setback. The applicant provides some documentation and it includes the first criterion states that the strict or literal interpretation of the specified requirement would result in practical difficulty or unnecessary hardships. Per the staff report, as read by Director of Community Development, Steve Sokolowski, practical difficulties can result from other conditions on the site or in the immediate vicinity due to population density or traffic conditions. In our variance application, we discussed two main points that necessitate the setback variance for our deck: emergency egress and a safe place for our children to be outside due to traffic conditions in the immediate vicinity. First, without the variance, the deck would be triangular, resulting in a loss of function and practicality. Instead of providing a large open space to evacuate from the west side of our living space, it would create a narrow chokehold on the northwest side of the structure that would make it more difficult to navigate in an emergency. Second, the traffic conditions in our neighborhood would have been an ongoing issue. We have repeatedly asked neighbors and various vacation rental occupants to slow down their driving, but our concerns have fallen on deaf ears. We have been working with the police department on solutions to reduce the speed in our neighborhood, but these things take time. We are requesting the variance to build a large functional deck that would allow for our children to be safe from the traffic conditions in our immediate vicinity, which directly correlates with a practical hardship as defined by the municipal code. The applicant has provided a number of letters from neighbors abutting and adjacent to the Stromstad property that are in support of the variance. Staff does not believe that the applicant has provided evidence that supports that they're meeting the variance criteria, which is required to consider approving the variance. Purpose of the variance is to provide relief when a strict application of the zoning requirements would impose unusual practical difficulties or unnecessary physical hardships on the applicant. The applicant does have an existing large second-story deck that runs the entire north side of the existing home and then faces the north side of the yard, and a fenced side yard that appear to address some of the safety concerns. There appears to be no extraordinary circumstances, conditions, or hardships applicable to this property or to the intended use of the property, which do not generally apply to all the other properties in the same zone that justify granting the variance. A hardship must be more than a preference for a more lenient standard. And the Planning Commission had denied the front yard variance request, and the council should review the code and the applicant's arguments and determine whether or not the Planning Commission's decision was correct.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to call for public testimony and state the request will be reviewed against the criteria of Municipal Code Chapter 17.8 variances. The hearing will be held on the record with the allowance of an additional site plan to be considered. Pertinent criteria to be considered are identified in the staff report, which was made available to the public 7 days in advance of this hearing. Staff has analyzed the appeal issues relying on the reasoning set forth in the Planning Commission's decision. Persons who testify shall first receive recognition from the mayor, state their full name and mailing address, and if appearing in a representative capacity, identify whom they represent. All testimony is limited to matters which were raised at the Planning Commission hearing in writing or orally. No new evidence, facts will be considered except for the allowance of an additional site plan that will be considered. Testimony must be directed towards those criteria or other criteria in which the person testifying believes to apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or with reference to record evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. In addition, the failure of an applicant to raise constitutional other issues related to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient detail to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issues precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Is there a presentation by the applicant? Jake?
Peter Orloff, P.O. Box 563, Canyon Beach, Oregon, 9710. City Council, thank you for taking the time to hear our appeal of the earlier planning decision. I will speak to you on the more technical side of the presentation, and if I can request that you allow the owners to speak. I am representing Jocelyn and Josiah Stromson. As noted by Steve, we do have 2 points that we'd like to make in regards to the request. Municipal Code 1764-101, lot of unusual configuration. 1784-030A2, extraordinary circumstances. Upon purchasing the property, the owners had no control of one, where the house was set, it's already built, and 2, the lot configuration. So we feel that this request falls within those categories. I'd like to, in listening to the original presentation by Stromstad, the Planning Commission, all I could say was ask for continuance because of the lack of information that they provided to you. They did not have a site plan which clearly defined the request as noted by Eric Ostrander. It's difficult to understand the request due to the lack of information. And that's why I provided you 3 additional drawings. So the first drawing, labeled number 1, existing deck, shows the siting of the house, property boundaries, and setback boundaries. As you can see, the house is not set parallel to the property line on the western boundary. This is where we find a lot of unusual configuration. We have a property that is parallel on only 3 sides. We have a polygonal piece at the front angle where the house is set in regards to the setback, 3'2" on the side and 6'2" on this. This reflects the lot of unusual configuration. The second drawing, number 2, proposed deck plan, it shows what what we have proposed for the addition of the north side deck. As you can see, the existing house, the existing deck, completely shaded on the north side, doesn't allow for any sunlight or a reasonable area in its situation. And we have requested that a 7-foot, or actually a 10-foot infraction on the southwest and a 4'2" infraction on the north, so that we can build a deck which is parallel to the house, not parallel to the street, which would be if we sat within the setback rules. Drawing number 3 shows exactly what the infraction would be. We have a hashed area of roughly about 95 square feet. We have cut back the north side so as not to go any further than the 4'2" requested. And that is still well off the northern boundary. The deck would be very transparent. It's just post, a beam, balusters. So we're not looking to do a heavy wall. It would not be visually impactful within the street. They have also gained the approval of pretty much all the neighbors within the area, north, south, east, west. And if you notice that I took from the original planning commission, Leslie Claire noted that small piece of the infraction doesn't run counter to the comprehensive plan in any way. That the request is really not out of line. Clay Newton also noted that the request doesn't affect the community in a way that they're often looking to protect. I also might also note that the city attorney in his consultation noted that usually typically there's a clear and objective determination that must fit in the box. And when that doesn't fit in the box, then the variance becomes a judgment call to which they are appointed to approve or disapprove on the planning commission. The planning commission did have a 4-2 decision. I feel with the additional information that we provided you today, along with the site plans, and along with the looking at the actual lot itself, that may have been different had they had the correct information at that time. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have now.
Yeah, I think you may have misspoke about or that misheard you when you said on the south end of the house where the deck extends out 7 feet.
Yes.
It looks from your drawing that it's just 10 inches.
Yes, it'd be just 10 inches past
Okay,
the.
I heard you say 10 feet.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, 10 inches and 4'2.5" at the north.
All right, thank you.
It's my understanding, at least from reading the record, that the planning commission was aware that the lot was an angled lot.
Yes,
So what is the new
we're
information?
furthering the argument that the lot is of unusual configuration, and that they had no control at the time of purchase, and they can't control where the house is set.
Nobody does when they buy a
I
house.
understand that.
That's-
This happens all along the street here on Chinook. All these houses would have that same relative effect. We're just looking to get a small piece off of the setback with a, like I said, very translucent piece of structure.
So I guess what I'm trying to understand is what is the new information that you've provided that they didn't have at the previous?
They didn't have a very good plan. They only had technical pieces. They had nothing that looked overhead that could show you exactly what they were requesting.
But they knew what the configuration of the lot
Configuration was there.
and where the house sat on the lot. They knew that too.
Yes.
Okay.
Steve?
Yeah, I think the big thing there was a survey that didn't have the proposed deck, and I think was allowed by the council during the scope of review was the new site plan, where I think the applicants have been able to better show what the actual encroachment is into the setback and the percentage in terms of the square footage and the different things. The plan commission just had a rough drawing of, the design of the deck, very general sketch of the existing survey that didn't give them the specifics, I think, that you have before you in the existing deck plan, proposed deck plan, front yard setback, 3 drawings that you allowed to be provided. Those were the drawings that the plan commission didn't have. And so I think what the applicant tried to do was to provide a little bit more clear information on some of that they didn't believe was as clear at the plan commission meeting.
But I guess what I'm trying to determine is that when the planning commission made their decision, they knew what the shape of the lot was. They knew about the angle of the lot, and they knew where this deck was going to be on the lot, even though they may not have known inches and,
Yes.
specific rendering of it, but they still understood what was being proposed.
Yes, they did.
Other questions? Okay, and then the owners would like to speak also.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
PO Box 35, Josiah, it's my wife Jocelyn Stromstead. Thank you all for being here. Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Trevor. We originally came in to speak with the Planning Commission, and it was my first time coming forth with something like this. And I could have been a lot more clear, so I had asked Jay to come back when we decided to appeal it. After we left the Planning Commission meeting in June, we went through and we combed the letter of the law, and we feel that we had a strong case that fit within the letter of the law, as was cited by Steve on reading off our letter. And I won't go through and read the letter again. You guys all have copies of it. We do believe strongly that we're within reasonable asking for something like this to place a post out 4 feet from an initial post. And what did spark this is we are aware we have a lot of unusual configuration, but what did spark this is our 2-year-old almost getting hit by a car. And someone saying I was going 25 miles an hour, and so we thought about, hey, what's a good solution? Well, we do have an unusual lot configuration. Let's put a deck on there for the meantime. I'm gone a lot away on military duties, deployments, my fire schedule in the city. And I do want a safe egress for my family. And I find that as valid. And I brought multiple people over from the city to just ask their opinion, and we all felt like we were within reason. So we wanted to come propose that to the city council. And we just want to say thank you for your consideration.
I think to add to just questions and to add to what Josiah is saying, you know, a lot of times or a lot of the discussion at the planning commission meeting, there was a lot of talk about like how there's a lot of gray area and there's a lot of room for like kind of interpretation in the code. So what is an unusual lot configuration? I actually looked through the code to like try to get a better definition, because is it a triangular lot? Is it an oval lot? Is it a, does it have to be perfectly square to be, and there's no like, that I could find, there was no distinct definition of what constitutes an irregularly shaped lot. So we looked on maps, like the maps that show the lots, and most of the lots are rectangular in Cannon Beach. They're perfect rectangles. On our street, which has maybe 4 or 5 houses on it, it slopes. So we continue to lose that like perfect rectangle. So, I mean, and that's out of 80, 100 houses, which does give us like, I mean, that's 5 out of 80 is, you know, doesn't apply to most people in our development or in the city of Cannon Beach. So we have, that hits on 2 points of the setback variant or the variance criteria. One, like, it is an unusually shaped lot. Most of the lots in Cannon Beach are rectangular. And ours is not perfectly rectangular. Otherwise, we would have a straight line and be more within the, I don't know, we would be pretty much within the setback reduction or yeah. And then oh, and there's only 5 of the houses that fall in that kind of line on West Chinook. So again, it's most people aren't affected by that like we are. Let me look. Steve, when he was talking about the practical difficulty, let me get to it. The unusual setback. Okay, the second criteria we'll address are those associated with Municipal Code 17.84 variances. The first criterion states that the strict or literal interpretation of the setback or the specified requirement would result in practical difficulty or unnecessary hardships. Per the staff report, practical difficulties can result from other conditions on the site of the immediate vicinity due to population density or traffic. I know we already said that, but In our variance application, let's see. Yeah, so basically, we noted that there seemed to be a focus on hardships, but as defined by the criteria for granting variances in 17.84.030A, the variance can be granted for unnecessary hardships or practical difficulties as based on the definition, and we believe that the practical difficulties due to the traffic concerns have been met.
Okay, well, I made a site visit like everybody else, and I was struck by the big, beautiful yard, fenced yard you had with some play equipment in it, for children to play in. I mean, it's a pretty significant size play area that is all fenced. So I'm curious why this thing about the traffic. I mean, there's a big area for children to play in, more so than most people have.
And kids also like to play on the streets and ride bikes and however, before I came in here, you know, I put the little, the slow sign out in the street. People fly by there. You wanna go, I mean, you guys are more than welcome to come up and sit in our driveway and see the constant traffic at any time, but it was a concern of ours. So as parents and as homeowners and good stewards of this community, we felt like we were within reason to ask for this request.
But I'm curious when you say that, I mean, if you're using your children's safety as a justification for it, that's what I just am not understanding, because they have that big yard to play in and they still are going to want to play in the street,
Yeah,
whether or not you have a second story deck.
but we're also using it for emergency egress. That was also outlined in our proposal too.
Oh, because there's stairs going to the deck down.
There's stairs, because we are, if the deck gets approved, we are planning on putting a door on the, like that west side, so we can get out from, because we only have one door that exits. So we would have an additional egress on the front side of the house to get out.
I didn't see that on the drawing.
No, I mean, it's a point of egress is what we're trying to get to.
I know, I'm asking, is that on the drawings that I missed it?
No, it wasn't. It was discussed with Jay. But it was not, the doors were not on the drawings.
And there's no stairs or anything on the drawings?
No, we're gonna use the stairs.
The stairs that are
existing.
there, yeah. It would just be a different exit point from the house.
And where are the stairs?
The stairs are located on the north end of the house.
Where the other deck is?
Correct.
So how would I'm curious, how would this help egress? I'm not understanding it.
I'll explain it to you. I'm a firefighter. I've been with Walton Valley Fire and Rescue for going on 7 years, and multiple points of egress do help in situations, especially when you have littles, especially when time is of the essence. And having only egress on the north side of the house, I think it is valid to have points of egress to get outside on other points of the house. And that's what we wanted to put in our criteria.
And I understand what you're saying. I'm not understanding where this egress is on your deck and how it relates to the deck on the north side of
We
the
would
house.
put egress on doors on the front deck. There is no doors there presently. There's two big, large windows that we're planning on.
You don't have a deck. Why would you need an egress?
That's what we're saying.
Exactly.
We don't
We
have the
wouldn't have an
plans
egress
because
on
we
the
don't have a
website.
deck, so we're not. Does it make sense to anybody else?
No, it's not making any sense to me because you have an egress on the north side of the house.
Correct.
You have stairs and you have a door, right?
Correct. You have
Okay.
egress out of one side of the structure.
Okay, so how does having the deck make that safer for you?
Well, we would have egress coming out of the west side of the structure as well.
They're gonna put a door next to the deck that they want to build. So they,
The door walking out onto.
I'm assuming on the, southwest side of the,
And then you have the stairs and the interior stairs as well.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
so that would be an exit onto the proposed
Deck.
deck, and you'd still use the same stairway.
yes.
Yes, sir.
And you have just the front door and then the door by the deck, the existing deck.
Mhm.
There's no back door.
No, ma'am. All the living space is upstairs and our only points of egress do fall on the west or the north side of the house right now. So we would be adding another point of egress on the west side as well.
So you only have one point of egress right now.
On the top level, there's two doors facing north, but we only have those points of egress. And they're only going to the north side, not the south, not the east, not the west.
And would,
So we'd be adding to the west.
would the triangular deck that goes by our setback reduction code prevent you from having a western egress?
It wouldn't, but it would provide it would cause a chokehold.
And narrow, it'd be too
It'd be a
thin.
narrow chokehold between there.
3 feet from the,
By the time it gets to the corner of the deck where the triangle.
And how big is that space? It doesn't indicate here.
It's on drawing number 1. The choke point would be 3.2. If built to setback, it's 6'2" on the south and 3'2" on the north, but it would get narrower past the house. So the choke point would be 3'2", but it would continue to get narrower towards the stairway.
I guess what really concerns me is this is verbal information. It's not on your drawings anywhere unless I missed it. This egress and all, and the door, and this is just popping up now about any, and I very well could have missed it. Can you point out to me where it is?
They have two, Steve, you have a picture of the room. Face our west facade.
What's the door?
There is no door currently.
No, but the one you want to put in.
We would put it over here on this side.
Why isn't it in the drawings is what I'm asking you.
It was not included. I apologize.
It was what?
It was not included. I apologize.
No, I'm not trying to be here. It's, you're using it as a justification for a setback. And that if it's one of two justifications and it's not on the drawing.
If we could ask for a continuance, I'll provide the drawing with the door on it for you. Be happy to.
I just,
If that, I mean, if it's gonna come, if it will come down to that to make a decision, we would like to ask for a continuance and we can come back and I'll provide you with a front elevation with a door shown on the drawing.
this is,
And
And it's noted
we can read.
in their comment.
yeah, I saw it in the commentary. I did, see it.
If
I had no idea. what-
visualizing that.
I'm not the decision maker. I'm one of 5 people, so don't look at me.
I'd be willing to provide you with the information you request.
Do we have any data?
Yeah, I don't have that right in front of me right offhand. I think the initial application was June.
general question that on that topic, but I don't know if it's the right time to ask it.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't think they can answer it for me. I think it's a Steve question or,
Okay.
so can I ask it now or should I wait? I'm just curious, if the road was straight instead of angled, would this require a setback? Would this require a variance?
Yes, a setback reduction.
It would.
Yeah.
By how
It
much?
was 10 inches. I can't, I think yeah, because on at the southwest corner, they are, because the deck would be 7 feet, it would be 10 inches over. So if they did it 6 instead of 7, it wouldn't. But if they wanted to do the 10-foot, if the line was 90 degrees, it would be over by 10 inches on the south, or it would be over by 10 inches if it was built 7 feet wide.
And at that point, we
You
would.
would still need you'd still need a variance. So
That's correct.
how much does the fact that it is a differently configured lot really apply to this question?
I guess that would be some information for you guys to consider. My take on this is not that unusual of lot. When I think of unusual lot configuration, I think of cul-de-sacs, I think of trying, odd. I'm not an engineer and I didn't do well in geometry. I don't know what that angle is. It's not 90. I don't know if that's what it is, but but in my take, this is a 6,200 square foot lot. It's larger than our minimums. It's pretty much rectangular. The house got built, it met the setbacks.
And we don't have a definition of what a differently configured lot is, do we?
No.
So that we're quick, your 120 days are up September 26th.
Thank you. And I don't believe, well, the next meeting date is the 10th after Thursday.
So we do have a work session on the 10th. I'm not sure if that would be enough time to get everything to council. We have a meeting on hold on September 17th.
So just so the council knows, this is not the first evidentiary hearing, so it's up to the council as to whether or not choose to grant a continuance.
And if we were to grant a continuance, it's based on the western egress.
That's your guys' call. I don't know what you're gonna go off of.
Is there some criteria based on a western egress?
They right now have a second story egress on their north deck. This just enhances that.
Yeah, so is something on that western egress change something in the criteria we're
I
considering?
think that's what I understand what you're asking. In other words,
Maybe you can answer better.
well, does that make it, is there some criteria that the fact that they want another egress?
The building code, all they have to do is meet the building code and it's sufficient the way it is right now. They have the interior access and they have the egress from the second floor on the deck already on the north side. So this is not something that's code required.
Yeah,
Is he answering your question?
he's answering my question that is not one of the criteria, that it does, that the fact of an egress is not a criteria they have to meet. That's just something they added in.
They could build this deck without an egress.
So that's just something he added in. And
If they didn't have a door on that west side, they could enter over and that would be, sufficient. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
I
in other
don't
words,
think exactly, but I think I know the answer.
Okay.
I think the question that I'm asking is the egress relevant to the criteria we have to consider?
I think it's an argument they're making, and so I think it should be considered. You just have to take it to the criteria and make that determination.
Okay, and I'm not sure which criteria it fits under.
Yeah. Like I said, it's building code criteria that they're already meeting. This would enhance them meeting it, even more so by allowing for a secondary egress from their living room, which is on the west side. I believe it's your living room or family room on the west side above the garage.
I'm just trying to stick to what the criteria.
Right.
And so I'm trying to consider what fits under them and which criteria that does. That's all.
The criteria that we put it to was 17.84.030A. Unnecessary hardships or practical difficulties, or that it's practical difficulty. The western egress would be, I guess, an egress from, like, if there was a kitchen fire, we could, and we were in the dining room, we could get out of the western part of our house because there would be a door and then we can go down the stairs, whereas it might be blocked if there was a fire where there's the kitchen. And that's more on the northern side.
And there was a statement made that people in the city said it was reasonable. I believe did you say something like that? Or did I
I sought some advice from different folks who had worked at the city. And one of them was a firefighter here in town.
Oh, for the youth safety.
Yeah, run it by to see what he thought.
see if he thought that your request was reasonable.
Yeah, if you thought that was valid, so that's
For egress.
for egress.
Yeah, but you work for them, right? I mean, they're-
I do not work for Cannon Beach Fire.
yeah,
I work out of town.
okay. I don't understand what that has to do with this either, but usually, you know, it's decision of the plan. So,
Felt after reading it, we just felt like we felt, you know, that we were within the letter of the law and we would like a second opinion by the council.
We listened to the points that they made, and I mean, he read them. And I think the whole thing, and it was mentioned at the planning committee meeting too, that there's a lot of gray in this strict interpretation. And that's why they have boards to kind of review. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, there's no defined definition of what constitutes an irregular lot. So like the city determined that, like, well, it's kind of the same as the other lots, but not exactly. And oh, it's a big lot, so we get penalized for having a bigger lot, even though it does have an irregular shape to it. I mean, it's not black and white. There's a lot of gray area. And we feel like we fall into a little bit of the gray area, but we meet the points. So it's just, I mean.
no, I understand what you're saying.
And we respect and value your time. We appreciate you guys listening
Taking on
to
the
us.
case.
Are there any more questions from the applicants? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So are there presentations by proponents besides what was in our packet? Okay, are there presentations by opponents? Is there a staff response?
No.
Does the applicant wish to make any additional statements?
Come here.
Thank you. So I'm going to close the public hearing and move to consideration.
The first thing I'd like to address is the lot of an unusual configuration. We had this come before us several times, and usually when it was a lot of unusual configuration, it was, first of all, it wasn't an oversized lot or a lot that was bigger than 50 by 100, which kind of makes up for the angle, you know, as far as, I mean, they have quite a large house sitting on that property with a really nice side yard for the kids and a nice deck. So when we thought about unusual configuration, it was usually a small flag lot or something like that, where there was almost no opportunity to do much of anything on the lot because of the way it was situated behind another lot, size of it being really small. So I do understand in this case why the planning commission said it wasn't out of unusual configuration as we usually look at them. Now, if this lot was undersized, it's weird angle to it, definitely. Into the configuration category that we usually looked at, given that it's bigger than a normal lot. You know.
Consider it an unusual configuration when spot on that street, it's an angled street front property line, and there's some other more irregular ones, but
I mean, what's difficult about this is these people are so nice and I, you know, you really want to give them what they're asking for because they're so nice, but I really don't, I think that's irrelevant.
yeah.
I think that, you know, is not, I don't think it is a lot of unusual configuration, and I agree with Steve's estimate that it is not. And the child hardship, I sympathize with that a lot, but they have quite a big yard for the kids and it's fenced, and the fact that they want to ride their bikes in the street, well, this deck isn't going to change that. having a second story deck or less likely to want to ride their bikes. And I think what has to happen there is there has to be some enforcement speed limit on that street, or a lowering of the speed limit. I've noticed a lot of neighborhoods having signs up asking people to slow down, drive as if your kids live here. That is becoming a big problem in Cannon Beach, of people ripping down these smaller roads. And I think that's a different issue. I don't see how this variance addresses that issue. It doesn't address it's a second story.
I don't see it as part of the criteria either, so.
Well, it's not. You're correct.
If we were to make setback variance decisions based on the criteria that wouldn't affect neighbors, were golden, or just that these are nice people, this would be easy, but I don't see this request meeting the variance criteria.
I don't either.
If you
Yeah.
guys see otherwise, I would like to hear it.
The problem I have, I guess, is if the street weren't angled, if it were just a 90-degree angle, it would still not fit the criteria. They would still have to have a setback variance. And I guess that's a problem I have. If it was a 90-degree angle and it fit within that 90 degrees, I could see approving it, but it's
Yeah, unfortunately, we have to look at the code and make a decision based on the code, but Brandon, you have.
Well, I do feel differently, yes, that they're correct, that this is somewhat subjective in determining whether this is a
Absolutely.
odd shaped lot. And if you feel like it's not an odd shaped lot because of its square footage, that's your opinion. But as they've stated that, why are they penalized for having that sized lot? I mean, they could build the deck on another part of the house, but they've chosen this. They'd like to put egress doors in front. If you don't feel like that meets the criteria, then I don't have an answer for that. But
I don't think they're being penalized for having
I don't either.
a large lot.
I don't see how that's a penalty, that the fact that they can't build into the
Well,
setback.
I've heard that comment, but
that you
it's not part of my
the size of
consideration.
the lot, that it's not an unusual shaped lot.
But even if it was rectangle, they'd still have to go into the setback to some extent, even if it's a small amount. So I don't see how that works I just don't see how that works as an argument. And I would, well, maybe I'll say this later, but okay.
Steve, do other cities have definitions for?
I don't know. A lot of times it's typically like lot width, what a lot is. I don't know that there's necessarily always a specific definition of what exactly that means. So like I said, I guess it's my job to make that determination, and I did.
there's some way they could.
I guess I'd like to move is that if the lot was square, they could put the posts, the foundation for the deck well within the setback. And that the only part sticking out would be the cantilever part, or they could build the deck at the.
No, I don't have that.
But that was the question I was asking, and the answer was,
My point being is that they could shrink it a foot,
yeah.
and it would be the.
Well, but we can't, I don't see how we could do if it was a different request. I mean, that's not,
fine. I'm not gonna dispute that point.
Okay. I'm not contentious, I'm just, I just would like to follow the ordinance as it's written. And if we want to change those at some time in the future, that's where the fight is, not not if they're already written and we're trying to follow them.
Yeah, I think we have to be the ones to answer whether this is a lot of unusual configuration. Since it's not defined. But we have to make a judgment.
Yes, and I'm willing to make that judgment based on the information presented to me.
And you're saying you think it is?
I do.
And I would agree with you, Brandon. I guess my question is, how much of a difference does it make in terms of the size of the deck?
Well, it makes a huge difference in that if they follow the setback, they create this choke point where they have to get off the deck, which makes it in fact unusable.
Right.
Right, so they can maybe make a much smaller deck.
And and keep the stairs in their current configuration.
What stairs?
The stairs that are on the existing deck. So
Oh,
for egress.
the stairs on the
Yeah.
north side?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess now is the time to say this, I guess. I'll just say it. Well, I'll say it later. Okay, it's just a general statement from the planning commission. I'd like to.
Okay. You want to do it during the good of the order?
No, maybe I'll do it now then. Okay, I mean, the planning commission here's these arguments, and they're familiar with the land use zoning requirements. They're supposed to be, and they seem to be, and the relevant land use ordinances. And I believe that their decisions should be given a certain amount of deference unless we see a gross error or their decisions are really appear to be mistaken. And that's just how I feel. I feel that is their job, and they've, unless we see a gross error in something they've done, that, or we get information that is so much more, compelling. And I don't feel like we've gotten that information here. There's nothing really new that has been added to the record that wasn't in the previous record, except more detail, but on the same application. So I feel very uncomfortable with this kind of posture.
If we were to agree, or most of us agree, that this is a lot of unusual configuration, would there be anything preventing us proving this?
Well, that is one criteria that has to be met. If
Don't we just need to meet one? Steve, I guess that's a question.
Yeah.
right. One of the criteria has to be there, but I don't see that there's any more information provided. Since our planning director says he doesn't believe it's a lot of unusual configuration. The planning commission said that they didn't believe it was a lot of unusual configuration. I haven't gotten any more information here to change my mind today. That would make me want to overturn a decision of the planning.
Can I ask? You've served on the planning commission.
I have. I think,
Your opinion on whether this is a lot of unusual configuration. I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
oh no, that's fine. I think it is, but I wish it was defined in our code. And we are revising our code, so it should be something I think we definitely have, so that there is no gray area. Because there definitely is in this case.
And all I can do is tell you what the thinking of the commission I was on was, what they usually found to be a lot of unusual configuration was a very small lot, flag lot especially, or a long, narrow lot where there was just no place to put a house except in the setback. You had no choice unless you wanted a real skinny house, something like that.
So is anyone willing to make a motion?
I think it's a point of order. There was a request for a delay. I forgot what was the word.
Continuance.
Continuance. And I don't, it would seem you would need to act on that before you need to
Okay,
make your decision.
Probably true.
thank you.
The continuance didn't address, I mean, the need for the continuance was because I was asking about the door, because I didn't see this door on the deck, on the drawings or anything. And, but I can't see that that door has anything to do with the criteria.
There was a request, is my only point.
Right.
So would that,
But
would that make a difference to the applicant?
required.
That's correct. That, and because this isn't the first evidentiary hearing, the council can take that as of a request and make a determination as to whether or not to grant the request.
So how do we feel about a continuance?
I think we're pretty close to a decision. I'm not sure that a continuance make any difference.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure that that changes the formula. It just seems like we're more in a position of, do we think this is an unusual configuration or
Yeah.
not? And does it qualify for setback reduction? I guess is the big question.
Anyone else about a continuance?
It doesn't help me to make my decision. No.
Yeah.
Do we need to vote on it, Steve?
No.
Okay, now, anybody willing to make a motion?
Well, I make a motion to uphold the planning commission's decision denying this setback reduction variance, requested setback reduction variance. I'm sorry, I can't see the words. Okay. Why am I looking at the wrong thing? So where is it? Where? Oh, just says if the city council denies. Okay, I move to uphold the planning commission's decision and adopt the planning commission findings of fact.
Is there a second? Okay, no second. Anyone else have a motion?
I offer a different motion to grant the variance request for the setback reduction.
I'll second it.
Can I make a comment real quick? If that would be the way you would go, you would want to approve the requested variance and direct staff to prepare findings in support of approval.
Okay, I'll amend my motion to ask staff to prepare findings of fact.
Oh, I'm seconded.
You'll
Yeah.
second the amended motion.
Mhm.
Okay, any further discussion?
Does this create some kind of precedent in what a usual configuration is?
And
I guess
until we get that defined in our code.
it's always going to depend on every other circumstance. In this point, I see it really making no difference to anybody there, that setback.
Steve?
A lot of times there's talk of precedent and things like that, and you could say that it does or it doesn't, but each individual case is supposed to be looked at individually, and they oftentimes have different issues, whether it's transportation, whether it's setback, whether it's slopes. So each individual variances should be looked at as its own case.
So no further discussion? Roll call, please, Jen.
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Council President McCarthy,
Yes.
Counselor Hayes,
Yes.
Counselor Kerr,
No.
Mayor Knopf.
Yes.
So I'll go ahead and draft those and get those for signature for you. Right, thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have an appointment of a city committee, board or commission. We have an application from Les Sinclair to renew his Parks and Community Services committee stature. Les is in the audience. Do you have any words of wisdom? About this.
You have. No, I don't have any wisdom to impart. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Les Sinclair, P O Box 1394. I just wanted to say that my time on the Parks Committee has been a real pleasure. A lot of interesting projects. I think you do some good work. I can't believe 4 years is already gone, and I would love the opportunity to continue. So.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, sorry.
Any drilling questions?
Thank you very much for re-upping your purpose.
Kind of depends on you.
I was gonna say, it depends on the vote. Let's not go,
Have to get a
let's not go before the vote. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, and thank you for your interest.
I will move to renew Les Sinclair to the Parks and Community Services Committee beginning 10/1/24.
I second that.
Any further discussion? Oh, please.
Counselor Kerr,
Yes.
Counselor Sylvie.
Yes.
Council President McCarthy.
Yes.
Counselor Hayes,
Yes.
Mayor Knopf.
Yes. Thank you, Les. Congratulations.
Thanks, Rod.
Plus,
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the RV site for the US Fish and Wildlife volunteers that are supporting HRAP. And Kelly is with another young public commenter.
Wow.
Yes, yeah, she saw the other baby and had to join.
Oh, gosh, look how big. Hi. Okay, go ahead, Kelly.
Awesome, thank you. I will also mention that on this call, we do have Dawn Harris with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. She is our visitor service manager for our region. So if there are any specific questions for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, she is available to answer them if I'm unable to answer them or if I say anything incorrectly on their behalf. So a little bit of background is for 18 years, the Oregon Department of Parks and Recreation at Alola State Park has provided an RV site for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services volunteers to come down to volunteer with HRAP with us on the beach. And they also, since they're being provided a site at Oregon State Parks, they also share some of their volunteer time with them. And this is really, really huge to us because during this time that they are here, you know, it's peak summer season. This is May Memorial Day through Labor Day weekend. During that period, we being my team at Haystack Rock Awareness Program, over 50,000 visitors on the beach. And these are a young team that is going out in groups of 4 to 6 individuals and standing on the beach, exploring the tide pools for up to 8 hours a day and talking to several hundred people during that time period, pretty much nonstop. It's tiring work and it pulls a lot of customer service and hospitality work to do that. And having these volunteers out there who are knowledgeable and experienced is just really invaluable for us to have. Just last year in 2023, OPRD had tallied over 1 million visitors to Tolovana beach site. And I think we all see those numbers and we feel that. And these volunteers, the amount of time that they provide us, it averages 120 to 140 hours. In 2022, our volunteer gave us, sorry about that, 165 hours during his time here, and that was not including the time that was spent at state parks as well. And during that time, yeah, that basically amounts to being another full-time volunteer or a full-time staff member with us during our busiest time of the year. And these volunteers, they are also trained and experienced on all the rules and regulations that exist in the place. And so they can help communicate that to the public in a very effective way, as well as educate our visitors about the intertidal and bird wildlife in the area. So if there are any questions, sorry, if there are any questions about what these volunteers do, how they're beneficial to us, I'd be happy to answer them. But since we've had struggles being able to get the volunteers out here on site with an RV site, it would be really, really huge to us to be able to do that, because I don't think if without this RV site that we would be able to have these volunteers coming out here.
And Kelly, I have a question about when the funding would start. You say May through September, so we're talking May of this budget year.
If that would depend on if there is availability even at the site for this year. I would request that this is a ongoing thing, that this would be every annual year, and it is split between 2 fiscal years. It would be May and June, and then July, August, and September on the next fiscal year. I don't think, given the time frame, that we would be able to get a site for next year at this point, but if we'd be able to, yes, that would be an amendment for this current budget.
That was my second question, was, is there going to be a spot available?
Probably not, because they book out about a year in advance.
Yeah. Kelly, I just want to say, I'm on the board of Friends of Haystack Rock. I need to announce that.
Yeah.
But I can make a decision without being biased. Okay, so Kelly, if it was true that there was only, different lots at different periods of time during next summer, in other words, a week in one site and then 2 weeks in another site, but they were all contiguous, would it be too onerous for the Fish and Wildlife couple to move from one site to another for that particular, just that 1 year, just because it's already booked out?
For just regarding this here, I would forward that to Dawn if you have an opinion, if that would be acceptable to do.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you, council, for hearing us on this. For this season, I would say I would just make that known in my recruitment, so they understand that they would need to pack up and move to a different site. But certainly in the future, just the nature of living in an RV and setting up and unpacking all of your things and living there for the summer would be ideal to be in one spot. But if the council approves it for this year, I would just make that a condition of acceptance, that they need to know that this year it could be interchangeable.
And it looks like it would cost about $9,000 of the city's, or with revenue, I guess we'd lose about $9,000. Is that right?
Yeah, it's lost revenue.
Yes, correct.
Would something like this qualify for DOT funds?
I can check with Ashley. Some of the activities they trap do qualify. Probably, yes, but I would need to check.
Yeah, that's a good question, because that would be great, because.
How would we be able to make a determination this evening based on an unknown availability for next year?
I would assume we could word the motion so that it was
Pending.
pending confirmation of an open space.
Several spaces.
Right.
Like I said, I was gonna make that same comment.
And
Thank
the-
you, Lisa.
And the volunteers would have to agree for this, just for this upcoming summer, that they would be willing to move a few times, which would be a drag, but they might be willing to do it.
It'd just be changing hotel rooms.
Yeah, changing hotel rooms, yeah. Well, it's all the hookup and everything.
Yeah.
But we don't know that either.
Yeah, we don't. We don't.
But
So anybody have any other questions for Kelly or Don?
Is Ecola gonna be permanently not available? I know that's historically where we put volunteers. Is
Yeah,
that-
we're operating on the assumption that Parks is not able to provide a space.
Yeah, I can provide a little more on that. They have been, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the agency I work for, has worked under a memorandum of understanding with state parks for over 20 years now, and we still have one in place. And it depends on each management unit if the manager is able to offer a position to the Fish and Wildlife Service. And I'm happy to say I've never lost a site. The only reason Ecola is not going to be available anymore, and Ben Cox is the manager of the management unit that Haystack Rock falls under and Ecola State Park, is that, as Kelly mentioned earlier, state parks is not even hardly seeing a shoulder season anymore. They also are experiencing a tremendous increase in visitation. And they have 2 RV sites that were available for camp hosts. And for the last 20 years, they've given one of those to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to do interpretation at Haystack Rock. And the other has gone to the fee booth and bathroom cleaner at Ecola State Park. But now, given their visitation, they need both of those sites to keep up with the demand. And given all of the unstable basically the landslides and the geology of that site, the road getting in there has made it more and more difficult for RVs to get to that site. So they have reached out to me and said it's just not going to happen in the future for those reasons.
Thank you, Don. Nice to hear your voice.
Oh, you too, Gary.
Any other questions for Kelly or Don?
Well, other than the fact that we have been, just to be upfront about this, is that we have been in discussions about possible use in the future of the RV park site. And want to make them aware of that.
Right.
You're talking about for
Housing.
But this may not be a long-term
It's a very-
answer. Is that your main?
Well, not forever, but it's a very general discussion. Right now, there's no plans in place.
That is absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, so.
But the discussion is still going to happen.
It's going to happen,
Right.
yeah, but I think it'll be years out before anything actually
Yeah.
happens. So at least for the foreseeable future.
Right.
And, yeah.
This in no way makes me feel like I'm not in support.
Right. It's just something they need to be aware of.
Does this require a motion or is this just something to?
I think it requires a motion.
I think it'd be good to have a motion. Just know that if you guys do move forward with this, like Kelly said, that she'd be bringing back a budget amendment also that would need to be voted on.
Okay.
So I think a couple things that need to be in the motion are checking on the TLT funds, the ability to use TLT funds for it, and also the availability of the spot.
Why does the TLT fund have to be in the motion though? That's just an added bonus if we get to do that, but whether or not the TLT fund would pay for it, I think we'd still approve it. Perhaps, I would anyway. Regardless of.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay, I withdraw that first part of the motion.
Right.
Let's hope. TLT funds.
Just to be clear, that we're just, the motion just including the.
Based on availability.
Based on availability for the coming year. Yeah. Just for the coming season. Yeah. You do it?
Go for it, Brandon. Go for it.
Oh. Oh, man, go.
Lisa, you don't have it.
No, I'm on the board. I don't.
Okay.
think I should be making the motion.
That's,
I move to approve making an RV spot available based on availability moving forward
For a US Fish and
for a
Wildlife
US Fish and Wildlife
volunteer.
volunteer.
But I think you should say for the year, because in the future, we'll reserve one ahead of time. But for just this coming year, we don't know about availability.
between the second week of May through the first Tuesday of September.
That sounds like I need to
It's a-
start over again.
Yeah,
No, I'm sure Jen has all of it, right?
Yeah.
I forgot, yeah. Yeah, right. She's got it.
Ogilvy moved to approve making an RV spot available between the second week of May through the first Tuesday of September based on availability. Moving forward for the US Fish and Wildlife Volunteer. Do you want to do the moving forward?
No, but based on availability, because if we'd say we want to do this in the future, but we don't know about availability for next year only, so that.
So it says, Ogilvy moved to approve making an RV spot available between the second week of May through the first Tuesday of September based on availability for US Fish and Wildlife Volunteer.
Is that your motion?
It was, that's exactly what I said. To Lisa's point that
Yeah.
that she's right, it does need to say next year, but
Start-
moving forward, that
Starting next
it
year
will be
based,
available.
starting next summer based on availability for next summer, but then moving forward. In other words, we're not saying that it's based on availability every year. No, I can't. We can't, it's not based on availability for all the years subsequent to this one. It's only based on availability for this coming year. And after that, we'll make sure one's reserved.
So how about I just add 2025?
Starting in 2025 based on availability and subsequently happening. I don't know how you
Is
say
that
it.
required or?
Well, you're gonna have to budget for it in the future, and so this conversation wouldn't even happen because she would just include it in her budget.
So maybe we should just take out based on availability, and if it's
No,
not
I think-
available, it's
no, I
not.
think- No, I think based on availability. has to
For
be in
twenty
it
twenty-five,
For the 2025.
and the subsequent years, we'll reserve one ahead of time.
And how about adding Haystack Rock at the bottom? For the US Fish and Wildlife Volunteer
Or haystack.
Right, yeah.
for HRAP,
Yeah.
if that's okay.
You should add something to the motion.
I must, yeah. I
It's a dramatic thing, so I think it's favor.
Yeah.
Is there a
Slash,
second
slash.
for that motion?
Second,
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Counselor Hayes,
Yes.
Counselor Curran,
yes.
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Council President McCarthy,
You read that motion. Yes.
Mayor Knopf.
Yes.
Do you want it one more time?
No, it's okay. I figured.
Okay.
What you're saying.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Don.
Thank you all so very much. Greatly appreciate it.
Can we put this on?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay, next we go to the monthly status report. Any questions? Anything on that?
It looks like you're having a lot more work this year than you did last year this time.
A lot more contacts, especially with overnight camping warnings.
Yeah.
The guys are doing a good job of monitoring that throughout the evening. And sometimes having multiple contacts with the same person.
Can I ask you a question? How come they're just warnings? How come you don't issue a citation for a camper when it's clearly posted?
We have issued, I believe, 3 citations this summer. Most of the time we get compliance. The first time we have contact with them. We had a gentleman last week, contacted them, or later contacted him again. Third time, got a citation.
Are they staying in the same place or are they actually?
This gentleman did, yeah, he didn't get it until he got a citation, and then we got him out of town to where he could camp for the evening.
How much is the fine usually?
I believe it's $50.
Well, it's cheaper than a motel room around here.
Yeah, it really
It
is.
doesn't get you a place to stay.
Yeah.
Microwave.
It's get you service with a smile.
Yeah, and it also gets us them using the beach as a bathroom. You know,
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions on the monthly status report? No? Okay. I have nothing to communicate. Any counselor have anything to communicate?
How did the housing meeting go that I wasn't?
Oh, it was,
I wasn't able to go either.
yeah, it was very inspirational because a former student of mine now works for a housing development company, a for-profit housing, but was the presenter. And they presented the plans for the housing at the North 40 by the former high school.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, it's very exciting. I mean, it's still very preliminary.
Yeah.
But the concepts and the
for Seaside, for the high school.
for Seaside, yeah, for that property. And the drawings and stuff are beautiful. They have plans to have a after-school program. So kids have something to do when their parents are still working when they get out from school. Will be affordable. And but there, again, it's a for-profit company that's developing it and they're working closely with Seaside.
Are they gonna tear down the high school?
No, it's on the,
It's just, it's the north, the property north.
right, so it's the land that the county gave back to the city to build
Okay.
housing. So it was very good. And that meeting's available on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Let's see.
I would recommend you guys watch it. I walked away thinking we're making some progress in the county.
Good.
And then Seaside also has two market rate apartment plan in the plan too, so. So yeah, it was good. You should watch it if you have a chance. Anything else for counselors?
I have not for correspondent, I have a thing for that, I guess, for.
Good of the order. Okay, we'll go on to good of the order.
Okay, while I was at farmer's market today, somebody came up to me and asked me about our ordinance regarding gas leaf blowers. She is quite upset about somebody apparently at a hotel that's close to where she lives over in the presidential area uses their gas leaf blower about 45 minutes a day, every day. And she said she can't get away from the noise. It's just so loud. And she's wondering if there's any way that the city could, as other cities have done, outlaw the gas. She said she doesn't have a problem with electric leaf blowers because they're a lot quieter. But these are pretty darn loud. And she has worked with the hotel manager to try to get the person to either do it a lot quicker or in a different time period or whatever. But she said it's not working very well, so.
But they're still doing it within the noise ordinance.
Well, that was the thing. She has contacted code enforcement and I think that she's worked with Daniel on this. But and I said, well, isn't there a decibel situation here? I mean, she said that I got the feeling that Daniel didn't really know how many decibels the gas leaf blower might have and whether it's over the limit. So there's that whole question about decibels. And I don't know, and the person I was working with is Jessica Sund. So she's the one is complaining about the.
Yeah,
Oh, it was
it smelled
Jessica?
terrible too.
It was Jessica that was talking. Oh,
Yeah, it's Jessica.
They smell awful too.
Yeah,
Just,
she didn't say, she's just really bothered by the noise. And she said she can't go anywhere in her house without hearing it. I think the hotel's across the street from where she lives.
Chief's gonna check on the decibel levels. And then is it something you would like to require to be on an agenda in the future?
Well, if there's, this may, I don't know if this would fall in our code audit or if it would be something that would be different. So, yeah, it's probably something I would like to see us visit. Yeah.
I agree. I'd like to see that too.
Can we just review what code we've got that applies currently?
And she's looked up the code and she's worked with Daniel and she said, there really isn't anything that.
We don't have any.
The only thing we have is noise and time.
Right, we don't have any,
Yeah.
we don't have a thing about leaf blowers either.
No.
What happened to a rake? No good old fashioned rake.
So Chief's gonna check on the decibels and we're gonna put it on an agenda for further discussion. When,
Maybe that in the November meeting?
oh, that'd just be lovely. Lois Hoy.
An easy one, right?
November work session?
Yeah.
I can tell Jessica November work session.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lisa's gonna be gone for the beginning of October, so we're gonna try to parcel things out,
Okay,
and we'll talk more. I'll send an email out kind of with the things that we have. Actually, everything in October is pretty late right now. The lifeguard wrap up was planned on October 8th. Is that something you'd like us to try to move till later so you can be a part of?
No, that's not necessary.
Okay.
you can always listen to it.
No, I can listen to it after.
Yeah.
I got November, gas mowers, gas leaf blowers. And on
No,
November.
let's not talk about mowers. Just leaf blowers. Okay, anything else for good of the order?
Yeah, I'd like to say something. I feel like, tonight, the council substituted their judgment for that of our city planner and the planning commission on what constitutes a lot of unusual configuration, which is a definition that the planning commission has to apply all the time. It comes up quite often. So they have to apply it on a regular basis whenever there's a request for a setback. And I think I'm disappointed, not this particular case. I don't care about this particular case, but I think the substitution of the judgment of making a determination, both our city planner and the planning commission, when it's something they have to apply on a regular basis is a mistake. That's number one. And number two, I'll say that if any of you have a chance to drive up to Monica Court and look at the new housing development going in up there, it's right off of Ecola Creek Road. And there is 7 or 8 houses going in there, starting at $2.3 million, starting at. So here we have, more luxury housing going in, and we still don't have anything going in for people who live and work in the community.
On your first point, when we've got something that is not so clearly defined, isn't that our job to make a decision about that ourselves?
On an individual basis, I don't think so. I think that if we'd been given more information regarding that issue, then that would, because that was what this hearing was. It was an open record. So more information could be provided. No additional information was provided by anybody about whether or not that was a lot of unusual configuration. If we'd gotten that information and could deliberate on that, that would be a different thing. Then, sort of like an open season on that issue. But this was something that was already determined by both our city planner and by, and these are people who have to apply these things all the time. So that leaves them in a very weird place. How do they know in the future when it comes before them? Well, what is, and I just.
Seems like we've asked that question from the attorney at times, and it's like, well, what do we do when this is not clear and objective? And the answer has been, you have to make a determination for yourself whether it is,
And I would,
You feel it meets the criteria.
I would agree with that if there had been additional information, but there wasn't.
What additional information would you?
Something that would show that, you know, to show that other lots in the city that were, you know, had an angle like that and were oversized lots in the past were considered lots of unusual configuration. I mean, something else, some other, or that you couldn't build any deck at all because of the weird lot. You know, I mean, in the past, it's been things like a steep slope on a lot, which makes it impossible to build on except for, you know, going into the setback. A skinny lot or a flag lot that makes it impossible to even build your home, you know, a regular home that's of a, you know, whatever the size is allowed in the zone, underlying zone, something like that. This is, you know, this was a different kind of situation. And I just, you know, I'm just saying, you know, I just found that to be disturbing, but that's just me. That's my opinion, you know, and that's how I feel about it. I'm disappointed.
Thank you, Lisa. Fair enough. Anything else for good of the order?
Quick reminder, we do have a council meeting on Thursday.
Oh, what?
So we'll see you all on Thursday at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Another appeal. I would hope that everybody on the council will listen to that portion of the planning commission meeting that dealt with this issue.
Yep. Okay, anything else? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.